Evening, people. Back again on my own for another show, talking all things Arsenal, all things football, all things transfers. And I wanted to start with a question tonight. Before I do that, please make sure if you are new, you're doing me a favor, smashing a like on this. And I'm 400 away from 10K, people. That is all I am away. 400 away from 10K. That'd be amazing if I could do that in the next couple of weeks. So please make sure that you do me a favor and do that. It's the click of two buttons. It's absolutely free. I don't expect to pay for any content. So smash two buttons for me, like and subscribe. If you want to hit the notification bell, you can do. If you do want to support the channel, then you can join as a member. Now, the question for this evening is, who is responsible when it comes to Arsenal's transfers? And who deserves the praise and who deserves the criticism? Do we point the fingers at one individual? Do we point the fingers at a collect? Do we go for a group of individuals or maybe one or two individuals that we think are responsible? And I want to get your honest opinions because I ask this question a lot to Gooners, and there's a lot of different answers that I get. Some believe that there are one or two people responsible. They believe it's all the team. They think it's just on the ownership. They think it's just on the manager. They think it's on the board and the transfer negotiating team. Everyone's confused at the moment. And because of the Declan Rice confusion and the understanding or misunderstanding of going for Kai Havertz and Timber before we got Rice, everyone's a little confused and concerned. So I thought instead of ranting and raving about it tonight and looking at whether we go to get Rice or not, I think we've done enough of that. I think we need to leave that be and just let whatever happens, happens. I am more interested in how the structure works at Arsenal. So I wanted to do some Q&A in the chat with you all to see what your heads are at, see what you believe is the key when it comes to transfers at Arsenal Football Club. So do me a favor, make sure that you are putting a Q at every question. So it just makes it easier for me. If you do want to throw in a super chat, obviously you go to the front of the queue. We're going to get some of your questions and some of your answers in. So while you're doing that, let me give you my opinion. Now, there's a little bit of confusion as to where the problems may lie. Some of the opinions that the Arsenal fan base are that the Kroenkes are just not good owners. Some people believe that Edu, Richard Garlick, Vinai, that team just cannot get deals over the line in terms of transfer negotiations. And some of the people are still blaming it on Mikel Arteta and saying that he's the guy who has the pulling power, that he should be able to sell the projects that he so truly believes in. And this all becomes very confusing. Now, I, for one, have actually been fairly harsh and given some justified criticism, in my opinion, over the last few years towards this regime. And I do think that there's been a combination of problems and a culmination of individuals that have led to that issue. I've always looked at the Kroenkes as the main people responsible because they are now the owners. They are responsible for who works beneath them. And they're responsible if they do not take actions or allow people to, what's the word? Fall through the consequences of their actions. So, for example, if they're underachieving or there's a certain role that isn't getting carried out, we have to look at that as an ownership and say, are they the best people to be put into those roles? Now, we've seen a lot of people change, but that was under or before the ownership of Stan and Joshua Kroenke. Now, I look at the previous times that we've had at Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, and I think a lot of roles were kept too long. But they were the majority shareholders at the time. Still at the majority shareholders, there was also Unai Emery, who had a completely different team at the time of Horst Fahmy, of Raul Senlehi, as you remember. And there was a lot of dodgy dealings with Kia Jarapchkin, who obviously wanted to get the Brazilian players in, and the links, of course, with Edu. Now we've seen complete change. Kroenkes have taken over completely. We've got a new board and transfer negotiation team, which looks to be Edu, Vinai Venkatesham, and obviously Richard Garlick. We believe now that the Husfarmis and Rowells have moved out, and the people that have moved in are Garlick, Edu, Vinai, and we believe Mikel Arteta, who has a clear vision of what transfers he wants. He said very, 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 very many times that he knows what this team will look like in 18 months. And that was about 12 months ago. He did an interview with Jamie Carragher, if you remember, on Monday Night Football, where he said, I know exactly where my team will be in 18 months in terms of my vision of the personnel, what formations will be playing, what the team will look like, what the squad will look like. And I kind of believe that. The problem you've got is things can change in 18 months, but also if you don't have the same vision as your team around you, then it can also look very, very different. So I'm going to lay off of Mikel Arteta because I feel as if he is not responsible for getting players in. That's not his role. Otherwise, he'd be part of his job. Where I will hold him accountable is if he's having says on who he wants, and that's not happening. Because if he's going to take the praise for the signings of Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Ben White, Erdegaard, Partey, Gabriel, Jesus, Zinchenko, he then has to take the criticism as well for when they don't go right. That's my first thing. That's all I'm going to say about Mikel Arteta. Some people believe the negotiating team ain't good enough. Edu, Garlick, Vinai, whoever you want to throw into that bracket. And I can understand why people have concerns about that. The fact that it takes so much time, the fact that it's slow, the fact that we have clear targets that us as fans can see from the media reports what the price is, and we still don't want to meet that price tag. We're always trying to scrimp and save, always trying to save this amount of money. Why don't we go in with this? They say, why don't they just offer them his contract? Why do we have to do it now? We have to be real about this. There is some serious concerns from previous failings. Now, you can blame the transfer windows on lack of signings and say that we actually worked out okay in some of them. But actually, there was failings in quite a lot. Now, let's take the last two January transfer windows, for example. If I take you back to the last transfer window that we just had, we ended up with Trossard, Kivior, and Jorginho. Three players that all played a part in Arsenal's season. Some great, some okay, some pretty decent. Trossard probably being the best of that. Jorginho coming in and doing a job and scoring some vital goals with some vital performances. And Kivior coming in and doing the job when the players were injured towards the back end of the season. But we were linked with Mudryk and Caicedo, and it didn't happen. Now you rewind to the previous January, we had 0 incomings, sold Aubameyang, and I believe a couple more that were seen as dead wood, and we're linked with Vlahovic the whole time. We're linked with Bruno Guimaraes the whole time. Didn't get either of them. Bruno Guimaraes has gone to Newcastle, one of their best players. Vlahovic, okay, he flopped. Mudryk, okay, flopped. It's not really the point. And I said this the other night. The point I'm making is we failed at plan A. We have to start passing at plan A. And that's where I'm going to be looking. Now I come to the Kroenkes. The Kroenkes have spent a lot of money, right? The Kroenkes have spent a lot of money. The Kroenkes have spent a lot of money over a period of time. Now, look at what they spent it on. Some of it's been shambles, right? Some of it's been great for us. But actually, when you look at what we should have been doing per window, we haven't really had an expensive window spent. 150 million was a couple of summers ago where Erdegaard, Ben White, Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, all of those guys come in. We bought 6 players. On top of those 4, I think it was Lokonga and Tavares who made 6, right? So interesting. We finally get 150 million. It looks now that we're going to beat that because it looks like we're already going to be spending over 100 million both on Havertz and Timber. That's not even considering the Declan Rice deal that we want to try and get over the line for just under 100 million. So already we're spending 200 million and there's rumours that we'll get a couple more positions in there as well. So for me, it looks like we're going to spend money this transfer window. And I go back to something Lee Judges said to me and I always stuck with it. If we spend 350 million, let's say crazy money this summer, it means not only have we put ourselves in a great opportunity to win some trophies and compete with the best like Manchester City, we've actually prevented us having to spend 200 or 300 million pounds more the following 2 summers. Now, it would be nice to go and whack £100 million on 2 players every summer, but we wouldn't have to do that if we have a big summer this window. So when people say we just don't have the funds, well, how about you overspend in this window and then you don't have to spend absolute millions and trillions in the next couple of windows? I understand we have to look at financial fair play, but from what I understand, we're not one of the clubs that's looking at being under investigation for financial fair play. And even if we spent the 350 million and we sold the players, which probably will only come to about 100 million, the amount we want to spend, we're not going to go into financial fair play. We're not that club. We're not Chelsea. You have to watch it. West Ham, Wolves, all these guys that have spent money for years now, and West Ham have spent 180 million, let's say, they're going to be careful because they're not in the position of us with Champions League football again. The global fan base we have, the club size, the Emirates, the shirt sponsorships, everything amounts to a big club at Arsenal, right? But we need to start acting like one. And if it means we have to overspend like Chelsea and Man City do to compete with them, I'd like to think we have the ambition enough to do it. Otherwise, just accept that we're going to be in the top four for a long time again. And I don't want to do that. This is going to be an interesting time for Arsenal because this summer, we're going to find out on the 31st of August whether the Kroenkes have provided enough funds, whether the Kroenkes have provided enough funds, but the negotiating team is absolute pitiful. And whether we are serious about the ambition that the fans want, which is winning Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, and FA Cups and League Cups. We want to be looking at trophies this season and at least winning one and going very far in the others. So it's going to be interesting now to see where Arsenal are at. Now, the Declan Rice deal, I'm not going into it. Chelsea, Man City have not made a bid from what I can see. People are saying bids have gone in, bids have gone in. There's been nothing reported on Sky Sports News on Yellow Bars that Man City have bid anything today for Declan Rice. Let's see what happens, man. Let's see what happens. Let's take some of your questions. Make sure you do me a favor. There's loads of questions gone in, but I cannot keep up with them unless you put a capital Q or at least a Q and a full stop next to it. So please make sure you do that, guys, because it's been very hard for me to then sift through because there's quite a lot of you in the chat that all want to have your say. I'd love to get your opinions on where your head's at, because a lot of people are disagreeing on this and saying it's the owners. No, it's not. They've given the money. It's the negotiating team. No, it's not. It's Mikel Arteta. He can't get people there. It's absolutely crazy the amount of opinions that are flying around. So it's really interesting for me to get your thoughts on this one. Okay, let's have a look at some of these questions. So I'm going to bring up Ricky's first because he's a super chat. So big up, Ricky. Thanks for putting this one in, mate. It says, how can people say we got a better deal by getting Trossard? Yes, Trossard was good, but who can say what would have happened had we got Mudryk? Now, the reason I kind of agree with you here is because what we can't do is assume that because somebody was poor for one team, they're going to be poor for the other. There's no doubt in Mudryk's quality. There's no doubt in Trossard's quality. Trossard, I think, has actually fitted in very well at Arsenal. And I think there's a lot of rumours that he reminds them of X, Y, Z players. The quick feet of Hleb or Santi Cazorla is being mentioned. The fact that he can actually get involved in the games and set up and assist and play across the front three. I like everything about Trossard, and I think he's been a good signing. But I kind of agree with what you're saying, Ricky, because Mudryk could have been good. Mudryk could have been good. I don't believe personally that Mudryk was going to be a failure if he would have come to Arsenal just because he was an absolute failure at Chelsea. And I still think that if Pochettino wanted to, he could get the best out of him. But it's not really the fact of who's better here that's my problem. My problem is that Mudryk was the guy we wanted, and we ended up with Trossard, who was our plan B. Caicedo was our plan A. Jorginho was our plan B. If we go into this summer with Rice as our plan A and end up with Lavia as our plan B, it's basically rinse and repeat at Arsenal. It really is. Let's take your other questions. Gunnar Gregor says, what do you think about this? For me, Mikel was coach when the early mistakes happened and the more recent signing mistakes at Edu, stats and department. And since Mikel's was made manager, his transfers are a success. I don't really believe in this coach and management thing. I think if you're good enough, you're good enough for either role or both roles. I think they're very separate and they should be very separate. I think Mikel Arteta should have a say 100% in what happens. But I don't think it's his responsibility to get them over the line. Gunnar Gregor has also said, do you think they are hamstrung by restrictions from above? And this is the question I want you to ask me and answer in the chat, people. Are they? Are the funds there? Do we believe 100% that the Kroenkes have provided enough cash? This is what we need to be discussing. For me, I'm being told we have money. We must have, because we paid 65 million for Havertz. So why can't we get this Declan Rice deal done, man? It's absolutely crazy. Mum's in the chat. Mum says, do you think we advertise who we want to openly, inviting the others to jump in on our targets? That's a really interesting one for me, because someone was speaking about this earlier. I think it was Tom or was it Harry, talking about why we are letting everybody know what we're doing. Whereas other clubs, it seems that they just go in, get the deal done, and then they're away. And it seems that Gundogan did that with Barcelona. It seems that Kovacic did that with Man City. It was like, boom, they're now our player. We sit there for weeks and weeks and weeks and start telling everybody how much we're going to pay just in case you guys want to come in and try and match us. Just seems so slow. So I think that's a really good point from him, Mum, there. Across the pond, Sports Talk, big up yourself. Says, so glad we are not corrupt. Abramovich or Osmanov or Bowley or owned by a nation. We have Americans better, the devil you know, Potts. Listen, there's a lot of debate about what makes a good owner. For me, I ask for one thing and one thing only. Demand the best. Show ambition to be the best. And have one goal and one aim only, and that is to win at the very top level. And that's what I want from the Kroenkes if they're going to be our owners for the near future. Bradley has said, I think the finger needs to be pointed at the Kroenkes. They want a self-sustainable model. So Edu is working within a budget. So I think his hands are tied. And this is an interesting one. Is it Edu can't negotiate and can't get the players over the line? Or is it the fact that Edu can actually negotiate contracts and personal terms that are being agreed, which we keep hearing is happening, but it's actually the money ain't there to get the players across the line? This is what we need to discuss. I'd be really interested to know what your thoughts are, people. Kroenkes says, would you swap Party for Vlahovic? I don't want Party leaving. I don't want Party leaving unless we buy Rice, Caicedo and Lavia. Then he can go because we've got enough cover. And I don't see that happening. So we've got to keep Party, man. We really have to. Across the Pronda says, Soskic, we should get SMS, shouldn't we? I like Milinkovic-Savic. I really like Milinkovic-Savic, and it would be a player that I'd be excited to get, but I haven't seen any links whatsoever. Kevin Ball, Dan, are you for real? You think Arteta's going to win a trophy? I hope so, mate. He needs to. If he's going to win one with Unai Emery's side, he's got to win one with his own side. That's for sure. Otherwise, there's going to be serious pressure on him, in my opinion, moving forward. Techers Dave, big up yourself, man. Thanks for coming in. I always appreciate neutral fans coming and talking all things football and all things Arsenal as well in particular. It says, do you feel confident with the management and transfer team to get the right deals over the line to compete for the league next season, despite other teams getting stronger? Now, this is a great point that no one's mentioned, Techers Dave, that actually everyone else is going to improve as well. That Arsenal might actually improve their team, but so are Liverpool, so are Newcastle. There's only really Arsenal, Manchester United at the moment that I have a little bit of doubt about that's going to be stronger. But I know that Newcastle will be. Liverpool are definitely going to be. City are definitely going to be. Chelsea are definitely going to be. We've got to be careful, man. We've got to go and strengthen. That's for sure. Raul has said, what are the chances of Xhaka getting a new improved and big contract? Very slim, I would suggest. If he is going to stay, I don't think it'll be a long-term deal that he stays with. I think Bayern Leverkusen are wanting him. And I believe the only reason he's not gone so far is because we haven't had anyone coming in. And if we do sell Xhaka and Partey before selling people, getting them gone, I am going to be very, very frustrated if no one comes in and Xhaka and Partey have left. So let's hope that that does not happen. King Cairo says, does anyone else find it weird that strikers can't be prolific under Mikel Arteta? Now, this is an interesting point as well, because we have seen, haven't we, Pepe, Aubameyang and Lacazette all struggle for goals. We've also seen Eddie come in. We've seen Gabriel Jesus come in now, Saka and Martinelli. Now, the front three, for me, this season, actually front four, because Erdegaard's included, has scored plenty of goals. So it actually isn't a concern to me, but it was a concern. And I think what's a concern is, and Daps made a good point on the show earlier, Mikel Arteta wanted a false nine. He's got Gabriel Jesus. There's now rumours that he wants Havertz, who's a little bit of that as well. Does he want a prolific striker? I don't believe he will. And I've always said I don't think we'll buy a striker this summer. I really don't. My number one choice would be to get Ivan Toney in January. If we can't afford the Osimhen's, the Vlahovic's, Harry Kane's not an option. So it's got to be, for me, Ivan Toney. Now, Tammy Abraham was mentioned previously by a player. He's now out with an ACL. Mitrovic is another one that people have mentioned, but I don't see him leaving Fulham, if I'm honest. And if we do, we're going to have to probably play the way the market's going, 60, 70 million for people like that now. It's mad. For me, Ivan Toney, if we throwed in Eddie and Nketiah in January and gave him some money, maybe he'd be interested in coming to the Arsenal. That would be my number one choice. But yeah, that hopefully answers that one. Neil says, if we'd offered West Ham 100 million up front, would they not have rejected it and started the bidding more higher? How would you have done things differently? This is a really good question. So if we go in and people say pay the money, then yeah, we might have gone in with 100 million. They reject it. Then we're going to have to play up to 120 million. I get how it works. When I'm buying a house, I don't go in with a full price. I get that. But actually, when you go in with, let's say, 80 million, they say we're really looking towards 110. You know it's going to be between 90 and 100. So don't go in again with 75 plus 10. You've got to go in and say, they don't want 80. We've got to make it 90. And then when they say no, okay, it's got to be 100 then. That's how it works for me. Now, Manchester City could have come in whatever. Yeah, they could have come in whenever. But actually, they ain't come in yet. There's still no bid. So what are we waiting for? Go get him before they do. This is my problem. And now West Ham are just going to hold it out because they want a bidding more. They're welcoming a bidding more. So I do blame us there, and I believe we've been too slow. Badman Singh says, your video last night was a Rice deal agreed. What's agreed? Rice deal agreed. There hasn't been one agreed. Personal terms are agreed. That's for sure. But at the moment, there's still a bidding war. Let's go to Christopher Kirk, who says, would you be happy with Savic at Arsenal? We can't afford to replace Partey or Xhaka with up-and-coming kids ready in a couple of years. That does worry me. It does worry me big time. And I do like Milinkovic-Savic. But again, that's going to be probably the same cost as maybe Caicedo. If we can't get Rice, just go and get Caicedo because he's not still up in the air where he's going. Like, nobody else is moving anywhere at the moment. Like, this is the mad thing. We're not missing out because no one's going anywhere. So it's all talk right now. Raymond, maybe the transfer fund is meant to be for over 2 to 3 seasons, and that's why we're bidding these installment bids. Listen, all contracts have installments, all bids have installments. The Pepe one had installments, and everyone started losing their heads. But most players now, you don't give them 90 million up. It's a contract that's worth, or a deal with a contract that's worth 100 million. That 70 million of that is paid at this amount. Another 20 adds on here, another 20 adds on there. That's just the way it is, man. I think we're trying to pay it over a long, long period of time, and that's where the problems lie. Ricky says, if Arsenal had the pull of a big club, would it matter who does the negotiations? Well, we need to start acting like a big club, Ricky. That's my biggest problem for me. It's actually looking at why are we not acting like a big club and just putting deals like this to bed. Bradley says, I think Eddie plus 80 for Rice would be great for both parties. Eddie would suit West Ham style of play. Would you agree, Dan? Now, throwing a player in is interesting because I've heard Tierney, Tomiyasu, Smith Rowe all being mentioned, none of which I would allow to go to West Ham because they're all great cover. But Eddie Nketiah would be one that I looked at. If you wanted to go for a striker, which West Ham are apparently looking at, then Eddie or Balogun would be the guys that you'd probably put forward for them to potentially look at. I don't think they're going to be interested. I think they're more interested in the money. And I think that you either use that money to try and replace the likes of Declan Rice and maybe a centre forward. So that's going to be really interesting. Question, Dan, from Chaitanya. Big up, Chaitanya. So what would you do with players like Eddie, Pepe, Tavares, Vieira, Lokonga? I want them all out, honestly. I don't feel that they can contribute. We go from top to bottom. Runnison can go, right? Pablo Marie has gone. Cedric can go. Maitland-Niles has gone. Tavares can be sold. Lokonga can be sold. Pepe can be sold. And then you decide what you want to do with the likes of Fabio Vieira, Balogun. Eddie, for me, can be sold. Honestly, like I think there's enough here that actually could make a few bits of money. Xhaka is going to be sold. There's rumours Charlie Patino maybe either going out on loan or sold again. So there's enough room here to actually make a little bit of money. Never a Foul podcast. Dan, big up. Redirect the stream if possible. Safe. Absolutely. Make sure I will do that. Make sure you go over to Never a Foul straight after this. I'm only going to be another 5 minutes live, and then that'll be it. You'll be straight over to watch them guys. I think I've got some great guests tonight, actually. So don't miss out on this one. So this is going to be a good stream. So make sure that you do that, people. Big up to Daps and Kaz over there. And of course, Mo. What else have we got here? Trevor Keaton. Dan, I have a feeling this is West Ham trying to get more money out of Arsenal. Think about it. No City bid yet or noise from their part. What are your thoughts on this, Trevor? This is a really, really interesting one, Trev, because a lot of people have been saying, I'm not too sure about this Man City stuff. And I said, well, it sounds like they're coming in with them. I'm not too sure. They haven't yet. Maybe West Ham are trying to get Arsenal to panic into just paying him. Because there was a West Ham fan TV stream tonight and all of them were saying, just sell him. We want to get these replacements in. We want Paulinho. We want Ward-Prowse. We want to look at a striker. We want to look at Harvey Barnes. All of these names are being mentioned because they know that they've got money. So West Ham need to sell soon because they want to get their business done as well, let's remember. So let's see what happens. Here we go. Let's see what else we've got, man. There's so many of you that are coming in with questions. I want to make sure that I haven't mentioned some of them. Where are we? Here we go. Across the pond, big up, says Dan. You think not only Hammer's delaying to get City and our price up, but also because they're trying to line up CM, yeah, replacements Alvarez and or Paulinia. Alvarez, wow. Yeah, I believe they're gonna delay it, but they actually have to get their players in, man, as well. This is like their window as well. We've got to remember. So it's going to be interesting. Christopher Kirk has said, "Will other clubs hold us to ransom for midfield signings if we sell Party and Chaka? We will be desperate. We can't sell. We can't do that. We like I said before, we literally, if we sell, I'm telling you now, if we do sell Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey before anybody comes in, we are putting ourselves in the risk of starting against Nottingham Forest with Jorginho and El Neni as a double pivot. And I'm not even joking when I say that. Honestly, it's mad. Dan, if we sign Rice, are you going to praise Edu? Yes, but my question is, who do we praise? Who should we praise? Does Arteta get the praise? Does Edu get the praise? Does Garlick get the praise? Does Vinai get the praise? Do the Kroenkes get the praise? Who? Is it a collect? This is what we don't know. No one understands. It's not transparent enough to know how it works. So I don't think it is anyway. Unless it is, and I'm stupid. And please tell me in the chat how our transfer system works and who you would be praising and criticizing if it goes right or wrong. That's what I need to know, because the amount of times I've heard people praising stuff when it goes right, and then criticizing the same guy for it going wrong. A different guy for it going wrong is bizarre. Like, how can it be Edu's fault that Tavares didn't work, but Arteta deserves the praise because Ramsdale was a good one? Surely it's one or the other or both together. Like, it's mad for me. So we have to see how it goes from there. I'm going to take a couple more questions and then we'll go from the. Where are we? There was one good question here. Here we go. Creambone says, Dan, do you think City are only going for Rice just so that we don't get him? Thoughts? I'm going to say no, because I think Declan Rice is good enough for any side, and I mean that. He'd walk into any Premier League side. I honestly do believe that. Rice, Rodri, and KDB will be the midfield at Man City. Partey, Rice, and Erdegaard would be the midfield three at Arsenal. That's obviously if Partey stays. If Partey goes, we need somebody else, because it will be who? If Xhaka and Partey are going, we've got Rice and Erdegaard. Who else is playing in that left eight? Can't say Kai Havertz, because that's not going to work. He doesn't do anything defensively, so that left-hand side is going to get absolutely caned. And Rice is going to be a busy boy. So who have we got? El Neni? Jorginho? Going to have to play Jorginho, Rice, and Erdegaard as our first midfield. So we need two at least coming in. So let's see what happens. Going to be very, very interesting for to digest this one, because there's a lot of people saying that we need to look at other options. A player I've always liked, big up Trevor, bigger player I've always liked. If Partey goes, Ibrahim Sangare. I like him. I don't think he's Partey quality or Rice quality or Caicedo quality. A player I've always liked. It would be a bit of an underwhelming one now, though, considering the names we've been with. I think Lavia would be the one that would probably excite people as much as the Caicedo, or if it's not Caicedo and Rice, sorry. Zubimendi's another one that's been mentioned. I don't know much about him. I'm not sure that he'd be suited to this style, to be fair. So we'll have to see what happens. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Let us know in the comments who you think it is. Is it Kroenke? Is it Edu? Is it somebody we don't even know behind the scenes, like Garlick or Vinai, that's doing more than damage to this? Do they deserve all praise? Are they all doing a great job? Let us know what you think. Is Mikel Arteta to blame or to praise for any of this stuff behind the scenes in terms of transfers? Let us know your thoughts. It would be great for that to for you to get involved with that. We're going to see you next time. I'm not going to be about tomorrow because I'm at the Claude Cup. Big up, Claude. AFTV and DR Sports are doing a charity football match, obviously, in memory of Claude for the Gunnar Claude Trust. So if you do want to come along, then make sure that you do that. I will see you all there. Sorry, be back Sunday, if I'm honest, in the evening for a chat and a roundup of the weekend. I'm expecting a Havertz medical this weekend. I'm expecting Declan Rice bids to be going in from City and Arsenal. I'm expecting Mason Mount to be either moving to Manchester United or staying at Chelsea and perhaps moving somewhere else. I'm expecting Newcastle to revive their interest in Maddison. And I'm expecting Tottenham to do some form of business, and maybe even West Ham. So I think it's going to be a busy time, people. Liverpool, are they going to go back in for Kefren Turam? Are they going to try and get Kone or some of the other guys involved as well? I think it's going to be busy times. This transfer window is not nowhere near over. It's only just started. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see where we go from here. Make sure you do me a favor. Head over to Never a Foul podcast right now, because they're about to go live in 5 minutes. You do not want to miss this one. There's some great guests on there tonight, and they're going to be talking about a very, very heated debate. So make sure you go over to Never a Foul podcast right now and do that. Before you do that, do me a favor, like the video, please, and subscribe. There's still 300 of you in here. If you all subscribed, I would be very close to 10K. I'm about 300 and something away from 10K. Please, guys, I would love to get there. So please like, subscribe. It's absolutely free before you leave the channel. That would be amazing. We'll see you next time. Up the Arsenal, and take care, people. Layers.